So I am back with another director spotlight. This is for my favorite director out of Korea, Chan-Wook Park. He was born August 23rd, 1963 in Seoul, South Korea. I know that his early work and a lot of his aspirations as a filmmaker were inspired pretty heavily by Hitchcock, and it kind of shows. The first couple of his films, The Moon is a Sun's Dream from 1993 and Saminjo from 1997, I haven't seen. From my understanding, one's a drama and the other's kind of a comedy crime drama, and I don't know that much about them. They're not that common to find in the US. His next one, JSA, Joint Security Area from 2000, is a very interesting one about a mysteriously dead officer from the South-North Korean border area and the ensuing investigation as to what happened. I recently watched that one. It took a minute to find it. And then this is what probably makes him known in the United States, is his Vengeance trilogy, especially the second one. But anyway, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance is really, really interesting. It was not the first one that I watched. The first one of this series I actually watched was Old Boy, and I won't watch the American remake because the original is so good. But pretty much they all are united by themes of people who have been wrongfully imprisoned or accused of murder, kidnapping, and then their rather elaborate schemes of getting back at their evildoers. There's some very cool fight sequences in Old Boy that are pretty well known and influential. Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance is probably the least known out of the three. I recently watched Lady Vengeance and it inspired me to have red eyeshadow because the lead character opted to wear red eyeshadow throughout the film because people kept mistaking her as kind-hearted, and I thought there was something very poignant about that. So I really do suggest watching all three of these movies. Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance from 2002, Old Boy from 2003, and Lady Vengeance from 2005. All are really, really good. They're a little long, and yes, they are in Korean, but they're very good and totally worth it. Another one, he's been in a couple of anthology films. This one I've seen, which is Three Extremes, with Takashi Miike, who I'll do a director spotlight on at some point. And Fruit Chan, which was the first Chinese film I'd ever seen for dumplings, although I haven't seen the extended full-length movie of that as of yet. But Chan-Wook Park's segment Cut, which is the second segment out of the three, is actually my favorite out of the lot. It's really interesting and kind of incredibly fucked up, but it's visually arresting like all of his work. It's kind of like poetry in film. And so, at the very least, this is a really good anthology to check out. So after that, he actually did kind of a romantic dramedy, which was kind of strange and not quite his usual, but he still makes it work, which is I Am a Cyborg, But That's Okay from 2006, which is a girl who believes that she is a cyborg and she ends up being admitted to a mental hospital where a kleptomaniac who supposedly steals things to become other people befriends her and falls in love with her. It's a very quirky little film. I wasn't quite prepared for it, but it ended up being really good, and it has a lot of his really cool visual style as well. The next film of his, which I watched, last time I watched it was when it first came to the US, from 2009, is Thirst, which is kind of a darkly funny, romantic vampire film, and it's a very clever vampire movie, and I don't really see that many of this kind of film out of anywhere other than the US, and I've never seen anyone else pull it off quite so well as this. Featuring one of his usual regulars, I believe his name is Song Kang-ho, who was also in The Host and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. But the lead actor does a great job, and it's a very dark, interesting story. The next one on here is actually in English and was filmed in the US, which is Stoker with Mia Wasikowska and Nicole Kidman. And like all the rest of his films, it's absolutely beautiful to look at. I cry a little bit. The costume design is really good. Atmosphere is really good. There's an unsettling nature to it. So it's not so much a horror film. It's mostly a drama with some high suspense elements. But it's this girl, India, finds out that she had an uncle after her 18th birthday. And there's a lot of suspenseful elements as he somewhat tries to seduce her and her mother. It's really weird, but it's really, really good. I kind of stumbled across that one by accident through Redbox several years ago. And then his most recent one, the 2.5 hour long epic in Korean and Japanese, is The Handmaiden, that takes place in 1930s Korea, with a cast of both Japanese and Koreans. This is really good. I haven't read the novel it's based off of, which actually takes place in Victorian England and doesn't have quite as happy of an ending, but I was very thrilled with the ending of this. Again, everything is super, super interesting. It's primarily a drama with some suspense elements in it, and it does a lot of you think you know what's going on, and then this is the next chapter that tells you you didn't know what was going on at all. So I really highly, highly recommend this one, especially because, spoiler alert, there's a happy ending for lesbians, which never really happens. So this is totally magical film. Anyway, I really, really love his movies. I kind of call them poetry in film. They're very well detailed. There's usually some kind of tragic nature to all of his characters. They are both like fairy tale creatures and real people at the same time, and so they kind of take on a really unique story of their own, from the way that they make themselves up to the way that they interact with other people. It's very unique, and I haven't really seen it in anyone else's films. Anyway, till next time, Darklings.